The deer I buried won't stay dead. It comes back dirtier every time, and if I could rewind the clock to that first night, I'd do anything to keep from driving down that back road, anything to stop my headlights from catching those glassy eyes before the thud snapped through the quiet. It was late past midnight, the kind of night where fog creeps low over the asphalt and silence presses against the glass. And when my car struck the animal, I felt my chest seized with guilt and fear, like I had broken some unspoken law of the woods. I stepped out, and the air was wet and cold, clinging to my skin, and there it lay, a deer. Its body twisted unnaturally, one leg bent back like a snapped branch. Its eyes were wide and wet, but no breath left its lungs, and something about the way its mouth hung open made me want to turn and run. But instead I told myself the decent thing to do was bury it, to hide the damage, to give it rest. I dragged it off the road, its weight pulling against me, the smell of iron thick in the air, and every step into the woods made the night feel heavier, like the trees themselves were watching. The shovel I kept in my trunk struck frozen dirt with a sound that carried far, and each scrape echoed like a warning. I dug until my hands bled from the wood, until sweat stung my eyes, despite the cold, and when the hole was deep enough I rolled the deer inside and whispered I'm sorry, like that would undo what had been done. Covering it with earth felt final, like sealing a secret no one else should ever find. When I climbed back into the car, mud on my hands, I told myself it was over. But death in those woods doesn't stay quiet. 2 nights later, something woke me. It wasn't a dream, it was the sound of scratching. At first I thought it was just branches against the siding, but when I pulled back the curtain, my throat locked shut. In the pale glow of the yard light, the deer stood there. The very same deer. Its body still broken, fur matted with dirt, patches missing where the shovel had scraped it. Its jaw sagged, crooked, as if the earth had tried to keep it and failed. I froze, thinking my mind had cracked under guilt, but then it moved slow, stiff, dragging one leg like it had forgotten how to walk. Its eyes weren't the bright amber they had been in the headlights. They were clouded white, milky, staring through me like it wasn't seeing me at all, but still knew exactly where I was. I slammed the curtain shut, heart hammering, telling myself it couldn't be real. But when I dared to look again, it was closer, standing at the window now, hooves pressed against the glass, mud streaked down like fingerprints. That smell hit me then, thick and sour, the stench of rot mixed with damp earth. I stumbled back, gagging, and when I looked again, it was gone. But outside, in the mud beneath the window, the prints were real, hoof-shaped, fresh. The deer I buried won't stay dead, and even if you think you understand what I mean, you don't, not yet. The nights blurred into something unholy after that. Every time I tried to put the deer back in the ground, it returned. I dragged it deeper into the woods, buried it under rocks, even doused it with gasoline and struck a match. But the fire sputtered out like the flames themselves refused to touch it. Each time it came back dirtier, darker, more broken. Its fur sloughed off in patches until ribs showed through. Its eyes sunk deeper into sockets filled with wet soil. The sound it made wasn't a deer's cry. Not anymore, it was a rasp, like the ground itself trying to speak. Neighbors started noticing the smell. Something died in the woods, one of them said, wrinkling his nose. But I couldn't tell him it wasn't just something, it was the same thing, over and over again. One night, I woke to a crash in the kitchen. I crept down with shaking hands, clutching a knife, only to find hoof prints in the spilled flour on the floor. The back door hung open, mud smeared across it, and then the whisper. Not a sound deer make, not any sound I've ever heard before. My name, breathed out slow and wet, crawling across the walls. I dropped the knife. I ran outside into the yard, half crazed, shouting at the empty night, but there it was at the tree line, head bent at an angle that should have snapped its neck, antlers slicked with mud, and even in the dark I saw it chewing not food, not grass, but something pale and small, a bone. I don't know where it had found it, but I knew it was an animal. I stopped sleeping after that. I nailed boards over the windows, locked every door, even stuffed towels under the cracks to keep out the smell. But it always found its way inside. Once, I woke with mud in my sheets, clumps of soil between my toes. Another time, I heard hooves on the stairs, slow, deliberate, until they stopped outside my bedroom. I lay there, not daring to breathe, as the doorknob rattled, then turned. The door creaked open by inches, and I swear I saw an antler slide through the gap before I bolted upright screaming. The lights flickered, and it was gone. But the hoofprints, the mud, the smell, they stayed. Every morning the evidence was there, proof that I wasn't just unraveling. And then came the worst part. I realized it wasn't alone anymore. In the mud outside, alongside its deep, heavy tracks, were smaller ones. Tiny hooves, pressed into the soil like shadows of something that hadn't been there the night before. 3 sets. Then, and once, I swear, I saw them moving at the edge of the woods, shapes crouching low, not quite deer, not quite anything else. Their bodies crawling with the same earth-stained rot. Every night, more of them came, until I knew the truth. The deer I buried wasn't just coming back. It was bringing others with it, building something, calling them. Now I write this with my windows wide open, because what's the point of pretending to keep them out? The smell of rot and dirt fills every corner of the house, and the scratching hasn't stopped in days. I see their shapes moving in the reflection of the glass here, the heavy breath behind the walls, and no matter how many times I tell myself I'm awake, I feel the weight of their hooves on the ceiling above me. Last night I heard the shovel scrape the earth outside, metal against stone, but it wasn't me. Digging it was them. They're not trying to take me to the woods anymore. They're bringing the woods to me. Roots pushing up through the floorboards, worms squirming across the carpet, dirt pouring from the cracks in the ceiling. I don't know how much longer I have before they finish, before they drag me down into the grave they've been building from the inside out. The deer I buried won't stay dead, and soon, neither will I. If you're still listening, if you've stayed this far, then you've invited it to. Because now you know its story. Now you've pictured its eyes, its broken body, its whisper. It doesn't stay in one place. It spreads. So if you're here scratching tonight, don't look. Don't open the curtains. Just pray it hasn't chosen your window. And if you dare, keep watching, because the next story waiting for you is already darker than this one. And once you start, you won't be able to bury it either.